Hello, powerful mujeres. Welcome back to the Yes Mujer Build It podcast. So excited to talk about one of my favorite topics to talk about because I feel like we don't talk about it enough. Money. Yes, you and your relationship with money, talking about how much money we're making, how much money we want to be making, and getting into the nitty gritty of some of the uncomfortableness around talking about money, making money a regular part of our life. This episode is coming to you inspired by the women in my mastermind. Shout out to the Get It Done Mastermind women. And this one specific coaching session we have every week called the Money Room. You might have heard of the Money Room, maybe you haven't. But the Money Room is a call we do every Tuesday with my mastermind students. There's 15 students in this cohort. And every Tuesday, we meet in the Zoom room for the Money Room, specifically to talk about what happened money-wise this week. How much money are we making? How much money are we not making? And where do we want to move in the direction of creating the amount of money that we want to have? So what this does is on a regular basis, it forces us in a loving way to talk about money and to look at money and to actually discuss our numbers, how much we're making, how much we're not making, how much we want to be making. One of the things that I notice about us, especially women of color, is the uncomfortableness we have around talking about money, around getting into the nitty gritty with it, right? There's even this uncomfortableness around sharing with people how much we actually make. I noticed this in my mastermind also because one of the big things we work on is enrollment, which is a process I teach for sales. I call it the motivated, inspired sales method. The inspired sales method is a methodology where you actually start to produce more money because you inspire people, motivate people to buy whatever your thing is. And there are people in the mastermind that are selling products. There's people that are selling actual coaching. There's people that are selling speaking gigs. There's people that are selling creative art, whatever it is. The product itself doesn't matter as much as your ability to move somebody into saying yes. So what inevitably has happened is women are starting to make money. Yay for that. Yes, to making more money. And what I'm starting to hear come from some of them are these questions around, I want to share with people how much money I'm making, but I'm nervous. I'm scared to say that out loud. I'm scared to tell people and my circle of friends, or I'm scared to post it on Instagram, or I'm scared to even say it in our money room because then I think people are going to start to look at me differently because now I'm actually making money. Dun, dun, dun. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what starts to happen when you do actually make money. And what are some of the ways that you can start to move yourself in that direction? Number one, you got to know your numbers. You have to build a relationship with your numbers. If you are avoiding looking at your numbers over and over again, then you're not really going to get into the nitty gritty of what is the reality of where I'm at. Like with anything in life, if you have a goal and you want to move forward towards that goal, you have to know where you're at right now. So we know how far we got to get there, right? I mean, it's different if you're in Los Angeles, like I am, and I want to go to Seattle, that's going to take a different kind of trajectory. But if I don't know where I'm starting and I want to get to Seattle and I tell somebody, hey, I'm going to Seattle, the first question they're going to ask me is, well, where are you at? I mean, where are you coming from? I mean, are you coming from Canada? Are you coming from Indonesia? Are you coming from Hawaii? How are you what's your trajectory then to get to Seattle? That's important information to have. If you have a money goal, if you have a goal in mind that you want to hit regarding money, by far, the most important thing you can find out right now is where are you at now in relation to that goal? Where are you at right now? Like, how much money do you have in your bank account right now? How many bank accounts do you have? How about that? I always remember this story that happened during one of our Get It Done days. You know, I do these amazing Get It Done days as part of Inspired Action. Get It Done Day is a day where we show up in Zoom and we commit to getting something done that day that we've been procrastinating on for a while. And somebody inevitably always finds money. Always. It's crazy, right? But every single time we do it, people have found, $5, in the back of their jean pockets or something. But then people have also found huge amounts of money. I'll never forget this one time. This was a client of mine in the Get It Done Day. And she had decided that the project she was going to tackle for the day was her student loans. She hadn't looked at her student loans in years. I can relate to that. I remember spending maybe 3 years never opening my student loan. This is back when you still got mail in an envelope from Sally Mae. So I spent 3 years not opening my Sally Mae, right, student loan bills that would come to my house because I was in denial that I still owed anything. This was like years after college. Anyways, that's a different story. Point is, my client said, okay, I'm going to look up all of my student loans. And, that's a process if you haven't done it in a while because you have to look up your passwords. Sometimes you have to change your passwords to update them and all that. Anyways, she did it. And she found out once she actually checked how much she owed that her student loan had been paid off. What? That the $25,000 that she owed or she thought she owed, she didn't actually owe anymore. But somewhere along the line, through some of the processes she had done where she had moved money around, she had also gotten married, that in one of those financial moving of money around, her student loans had gotten paid. And she had no clue. So she was holding on to this $25,000 debt in the back of her mind for years. And the debt was not there anymore. Isn't that crazy? So I literally tell the story from the perspective of somebody once found $25,000 during a Get It Done Day. This really happened, people. This really happened. I also had another client who found $13,000 worth of invoices that she hadn't actually billed. What's the point? The point of this story is to remind you all of the importance of knowing your numbers. You have to know where you're at financially first before you can go out and try to create more or even make decisions, right? Because I have people all the time come to me in my coaching circles and say, I want to double my income. Okay, well, what does that mean exactly? Where are you at now? Well, if I counted this and I counted that, and oftentimes they don't have a clear answer to me. If they can't tell me, well, I made $10,000 this last month, and this next month I want to make 20,000, that is clear to me. Okay, you want to double your income. You made 10,000, now you want to make 20,000. Then I can work with you. We can get into some of the details of how you made that 10,000. What's your plan to make the 20? I can give you some coaching on what it's actually going to take, and you can make some decisions from a place of actually having data, accurate data. And this works both ways because the human brain is crazy, as we've learned through my podcast, right? The human brain is trying to sabotage you. So it does a couple of things in that process of sabotaging you. It either tells you you have more money than you actually do, or less money than you actually do. It's crazy how you can remember something and be like, no, but I swear there was this amount in that account. And then you go and check the account and it's a lot less than you thought. Or you might even think, I thought we paid this much for that dinner 2 weeks ago. And then you go back and look at your credit card statement and realize, oh, that dinner was actually cheaper than what you had thought. You had thought it was $300. Maybe it was only $200. Your brain and the interpretation of what happens is different than the actual data. And that's what's great about numbers, empirical data, right? It's just numbers that are straight out and honest with you. It isn't your interpretation of how much things cost that day, but it's the actual, you can actually see an actual number in front of you that gives you information. And then you can make a decision based on that information. Number one thing, know your numbers. Or we can't even really have a honest conversation about where you're at financially when it comes to, moving things forward. Second moment of truth for you. What kind of relationship do you want to have with money? Because let me tell you, you have a relationship with money. We all do. Money is a part of our life, whether we like it or not, whether we feel like we have a great relationship with it or a lacking relationship with it. And the more you can become friends with it, the easier it will be for you to maneuver it, the easier it will be for you to manage it, the less scared you'll be about it, the more you'll be able to dance with it and eventually create it whenever you want. How cool is that? Becoming friends with money means you got to talk about it. So you got to know your numbers, but then you also get to talk about it. This is why I created the money room, so that weekly we would have a place to actually talk about money. How am I doing with it? Is it serving me right now? Am I feeling scared around it? Am I in fear mode? Even if you're in fear mode or you're feeling uncertain about money, talking about it is going to help, because it's going to bring out those feelings and they're not going to be stuck in your body anymore. You're going to get to actually move them through your body, process them through by talking about the money situation. You got to talk about money the way you talk about anything external to you, like your car or your clothing or a book that you just read. We get to take the shame away from talking about money. We get to shift out of shame, guilt, doubt around money and actually start healing those conversations. And one of those ways to do that is to start talking about it. For example, sharing with people how much you actually make. Done, done, done. Yes, especially as Latinas, I think we need to start doing this. In fact, I've been in circles where that's become more commonplace, and there's been so much healing that's come from it, from women actually sharing how much they are making, actually making. So in my mastermind, the Get It Done Mastermind, in the money room, we actually do share with each other how much we're making. I will ask the women, what did you make in the last 2 weeks? How much have you made this mastermind? How much have you made since the beginning of the year? And they need to know their numbers. They need to know their stats. And hearing each other say it out loud has been such an eye-opening experience for so many women. One, you don't realize that you could be sitting next to a millionaire. So some women have had the awakening of, oh, wow, didn't know that person was doing that well financially. You sometimes can't see who's actually making a lot of money, right? You'd be surprised how many people are doing well financially, but just don't show it. Maybe they're not driving a Lexus or a Mercedes Benz or whatever, or maybe they're not dressed in Louis Vuittons and, you know, these expensive purses or whatever. Maybe they're just normal looking people, but they actually are worth quite a bit. And of course, this all depends on how you measure net worth, how you measure, you know, gross income, how you measure whatever. If it's $1 million in the bank, whatever you measure wealth as, right? Because wealth could also mean you own a bunch of properties, but you may not own them straight out, for example. The importance of talking about how much money we make. So yes, one, you realize, oh, there are women in this circle that actually are making millions of dollars. Yes. And then you realize that some women that maybe you thought were making millions of dollars or you thought were doing really well financially aren't doing as well. And you're like, wow, really? I thought you were doing much better than that. And so your judgment gets kind of rocked a little bit, which I think is actually really good. I think all of our judgments should be rocked when it comes to money, because when your judgment gets rocked, you have a reality check of like, whoa, so things aren't the way that I thought they were? No, things are the way you decide they are, not the way you thought they were based on this actual like ideology of money. Who you think has money might not, and who you think doesn't have money might actually have money. And what happens when you start to have a reality check about this, you start to realize that, oh, so there's no like set rules in terms of how we think about money. I can create whatever I want my relationship with money to be. Yes, you can create whatever you want out of money. It doesn't have to be what your parents taught you. It doesn't have to be what we've been taught culturally. In fact, I think as pioneers, because that's what we are, because there ain't 500 of us coming in front of us or 5,000 of us, right? There's a lot of us, but there's not a lot of us necessarily talking about money all the time. although there's more women talking about money. There's more money coaches, there's more money books written, right? Shout out to all the amazing money book authors out in the world. There's some amazing books being written about our relationship with money, because I think we're starting to get smarter and smarter about this idea of like, wait a minute, I get to choose where I want my money to go, what kind of relationship I want to have with it, how I choose to be friends with it or not. And I get to talk about it more, because in the talking about it, what happens is it wakes other people up to their own relationship with money. I think this is especially true if you're a Latina and you're listening to this and you're making money. You're making maybe lots of money. I think it's important to talk about it. What do I mean by lots of money? If you are running a business that's made over $1 million, you need to talk about that, because so few Latinx businesses make over $1 million. There's a statistic that only 3% of Latinx businesses will hit $1 million in gross income in a year. 3%. That's it. So it's a very small percentage. We need to be talking about how much money our business makes per year, over the range of our business, over the lifespan of our business. I think that's all really important to put out there in the world. Also, it starts normalizing this idea of talking about money. It takes money out of the closet, so to speak, or in the dark corners of our life, and it has it become more central so that we can support each other. Something else that's come out of my mastermind rooms that has been really powerful is I had another client who worked in nonprofit, and there was another person in the same mastermind who also worked in nonprofit. When we started talking about how much their salaries were, woo, one of them had a huge breakthrough where she realized, oh my gosh, I am way underpaid. That would have never happened had we not had the courage to be actually talking about how much money we're making, our salaries, how much money is coming in and out, how much is flowing. So you know what ended up happening with that client that realized she was really underpaid? She got some coaching, she talked to a couple other people, and then she went in and demanded a raise. Demand might be the wrong word. Maybe not demanded a raise, but enrolled. Those of you that know enrollment, meaning she had a conversation with her boss that inspired her boss to give her a raise. And she did actually get a raise. If I remember correctly, it was like a 15% raise that she got based on the data she had collected on how much her position really should be paying versus how much it was actually paying. But she may never have gotten even to that awareness had she not been in this safe room where we were actually talking about how much money we make. Talk about money. Make friends with money. It is just one resource that's out there. There's so many other resources that are out there. But if you don't start changing your mindset around money, then it doesn't matter all the information that you know, all the books that you read, all the courses that you take on how to make money. If in your mind and in your beingness, in your body, there is still pain related to money, doubt, fear, shame, it's going to be really difficult for you to take action consistently on any of that money insight that you might get. It really is about you deciding that you're going to start viewing money differently. Maybe differently than your past, differently than other people around you, differently than some of your friends, maybe some of your family members. And there's pain in this process too, because as you start to make money, this is happening to some of my mastermind students, as you start to make money, you realize that you're thinking differently about money than other people around you. And sometimes that means some people start to feel left out. They start to feel like they don't really understand you anymore, or you're too good for us now that you have the big house, or that you got the big truck, or that you have the savings account, or that you've made this amount of money, or whatever. And we have to find ways to make peace with that. We have to find ways to incorporate that into our life, because I don't think it's an either or. I don't think it's either we're poor and we have a poor person's mindset, or we're rich and we have a rich person's mindset, right? Even though your brain might try to tell you that. I think it's a dance of, hey, I can still be making money and still be involved in my community, still be giving back. In fact, for most of Latinas that I talk to, one of the reasons we want to make money is to be of service, to give back to our community, to offer more support and love to the people around us. It's not just about me getting mine for my own sake. It's about me getting mine so that I can pull people up from my community along with me, right? That's for many of us the reason why we're wanting to make money. I say all of this because I want to start planting the seeds in you that your relationship with money matters, that there are ways for you to start healing some of your money beliefs and start moving into abundant money beliefs. There are also ways for you to start making more money. And that this thought work that we've been talking about, this being work that I teach, the belief work that I teach, it doesn't go away just because you start making money. You have new beliefs around money, but now you need to end up shifting into a new self-concept, a new way of looking at yourself and your relationship with money. Okay, so in summary, and this was just to plant seeds. What I did on today's podcast is just plant some seeds for you to start thinking about. In future episodes, I'm going to get into more detail about how we actually heal from some of our money wounds and how do we actually start creating our own money code, our code for ourselves that works individually for us to start building a better relationship with money. Number one, know your numbers. Dun, dun, dun. Know your numbers at all times. I mean, it doesn't have to be every second of the day, but what I mean is at least once a week, you got to be checking your bank accounts, guys. And not just your regular checking. You should check your 401ks, your retirement funds, anything else, anywhere else that you have money. Know your numbers. 2, talk about money. Talk about money. Have a conversation with your friends and family about where you're at with it. If you're having a good year, if you're not having a great year. If you're having a good year, meaning money is coming to you because you created it, share that too, because then you're an example for so many people. You're an example for many of us in terms of what we can create. That's why I talk about how much money I make. Only Ritzy. A big part of why I talk about how much money I make is because I want to be an example for so many people out there that it is possible to make lots of money in a way that works for you, in a way that is impacting your community, in a way that doesn't have you exhausted and overrun and overwhelmed all the time. And even in a non-hustle way, if you don't want to hustle anymore, there's a way to make lots of money and not hustle also. There are smart ways to make money and make a difference, that you can do something that you love and actually make a living out of it. But if I didn't talk about how much money I was making, you guys might be like, what? I don't really see this as possible. It is possible. I used to think it was impossible to make more than 100K as a coach. And I spent many years making just 100K. And then I made 200K. And then I made 300K. Now I average 500K plus per year. I've hit 1.3 million in my business in the last 4 years. So it might even be higher than that. I got to go back and check my numbers, right? Know your numbers, talk about money, and really look at your relationship with money. What kind of relationship do you want to have with it? Because it is your choice. You have a relationship with it right now. If you're not aware of the kind of relationship you have with it, think about when you think of money, what's the first feeling you get? What is the feeling you get in your body when you think of money? For me, for a long time, I used to think about money and the feeling I would get in my body was like panic. Like I don't have enough. Now I think about money and I picture a river of water flowing that is just around me all the time. I don't own the river. The water is just part of nature. It's part of the earth, but I see it as accessible to me. I can dip my hand in that water whenever I want. I can put my foot in that water whenever I want. In fact, it is my birthright to do so, to step into that water whenever I want. So I don't own this river. It's just flowing. The feeling I get is flow when I think of money now. It's just around me and I can tap into it whenever I want. In fact, I can find more creative ways to tap into it, which is super fun. Okay. Please message me on Instagram what was valuable for you in this episode, right? We talked about relationship with money. We talked about talking about money, specifically talking about how much you make or how much you are making, right? And finding those safe spaces to actually have these conversations. And we talked about the importance of actually knowing your numbers, knowing the data. How much of this is uncomfortable for you? Did you stop listening a while back because I triggered something in you? Let me know if you'd like me to do more episodes on money, because money is one of the things that I have figured out how to dance with, how to be in abundance with, how to actually create whenever I want. And what I want for all of you is that you learn how to do that for yourself, that you build a relationship with money where it's just one more resource out in the world for you to do the work that you want to do. But that money is never the thing that stops you from having the life you want. Money shouldn't be the driving factor, and it shouldn't be the thing that stops you either. You, your spirit, what you really want to do, your soul, your passion, that gets to be the thing that drives you. That gets to be the thing that says yes to your life. So much love to each of you. I will catch you on the next episode of Yes Mujer, Build It. Bye, guys.